After the Great War, there was an interest in airships on a strategic level. Zeppelins had been effective for a time at reaching British cities. The damage they caused, however, was not particularly great. After the war, the airship's effectiveness was narrowing. As aircraft improved, so too did the chance of interception. Mixed with several high-profile accidents, and it was clear that airships as a strategic weapon was coming to an end. The Wellesley is the forgotten aircraft from the legendary designer Barnes Wallis, who designed the Wellington and was instrumental to the Dambuster raid. He had an interest in geodetic designs. They would weigh less, were strong, and did not require a highly skilled workforce. However, money would be needed to tool the factories, and the methods themselves could not be used for fighters, only bombers and transport aircraft. There had been a couple of earlier examples of the construction process, but when Vickers gave Wallis the go-ahead to develop the Type 246 was when things would begin in earnest. The Type 246 would become the Wellesley bomber, but at the time there was no contract, so the project was being financed by Vickers themselves. There was a 1931 Air Ministry specification for a replacement of the Gordon and Wapiti designs. At this time, war was not considered, so the specifications were around coastal patrolling and colonial policing, although it had to be able to protect itself and have bombing and torpedo bombing capability. Vickers put forth the Type 253 biplane. Its fuselage shared a great deal in common with the 246. The base design had potential. This allowed a faster development and possible funding, and work on both aircraft continued. One problem arose, which was the Vickers offer was the most expensive, as well as having the longest time in development before delivery. Vickers would put forward 3 options for consideration, and it was the biplane that was chosen for a prototype build. There would be almost 10 prototypes from a variety of companies, and in 1935 Westland's PV7 would be the one chosen. During the not inconsiderable time this whole process took, the 246 had improved. Better designed flaps and a retractable undercarriage. The Air Ministry cancelled orders for the 253 and ordered 96 of the 246 instead. The Westlands aircraft, while not working out in the end at this stage, would be a link in the chain that would become the Lysander. The 246 had some holdovers from an earlier time. Pilot and gunner had open cockpits. Vickers was required to make them closed and developed canopies for these positions. It would come with a more powerful engine, the Pegasus 10, which gave 980 horsepower. One problem that couldn't be overcome was that of the internal bomb bay. Instead, it would come with 2 external bays called pannier, and these would be located one under each wing. It was now officially called the Wellesley, and as the production aircraft arrived, they had again been improved. The Pegasus 20 came with a supercharger. There was a single Vickers 303, which was later to be replaced with the Browning 303 in the right wing. The gunners had a Lewis 303 or a Vickers. Bomb load was a modest 2 250-pound or 2 500-pound and 8 flares or low poundage bombs. Many countries were slow to modernise how they did things, one reason why Germany was so dangerous early on. At this stage, the RAF did not specialise positions. Pilots were the navigators, and ground crew would fill the other roles, a situation that was still happening in 1937. There were several Wellesley squadrons in service by early 1938, and it was not a gentle transition. Accidents, especially on landing, was a cause for concern. Where the bomber made its mark was in the desert. It was a good plane, but by 1939 it was already outclassed by both German fighters and other British bombers. The North African front needed supporting, and the Wellesley was now available for it. The bomber was well suited to the rough desert conditions and could carry some important survival gear, like water, should a crash landing occur. When Italy entered the war, they far outnumbered the Commonwealth forces that opposed them. A raid was planned to disrupt the Italian operations. The Italian bomber force and navy were grave threats, and the strikes were planned against these. The effective bomb load of the Wellesley was not a great deal. The raids would be conducted at low level and targeted buildings, aircraft, and most importantly fuel tanks. They attacked quite a number of targets over the following weeks, but those hits to the fuel tanks caused a great deal of damage to the Italian plans. The Wellesley would do alright against the Italian CR-32 fighters overall, but the CR-42 was a good fighter in its own right. The Wellesley had fought hard and well against the Italians, and in their time they had caused considerable damage and harassment of the enemy forces. It was clear, however, that the design was now outclassed, and it was withdrawn from service.